Welcome to this week's Substrate Sync. Oh, Jax is here. See. Awesome.
Oh, great.
Cool. We're just about to kick it off. I think our first topic is Yongchul. You have your lateral join PR.
Yeah. So Victor, Neil both looks like spent some time going through the thing and scratching their heads.
Yeah. I think to my comments, I think my first comment, I realized that I misunderstood how outer references work, and it's actually might be worth clarifying.
Right.
The doc where the field ref on the outer reference is relative to the root, like the root input, which I think for some reason I thought the outer references were relative to the output of the relation, but that's not how references work. So my misgiving was incorrect.
Right. Yeah. So I mean the references are always like evaluated under the input. So that's the thing. And Neil's comment is like, okay, so this basically snugging in like another mode of operation is probably too confusing. Which I agree. But it is also like there are like too many duplicates. So I'm not like a super have like I just want to this thing in here. In Substrate like somewhere. I don't really care whether it's a separate operator or not, but it's basically if we have a separate operator, then there is some amount of duplication of the documents. Maybe we can just simply refer, hey, this is the thing, and for the rest, just refer the join documents. That's certainly another way to go. If everyone agrees that that's better, then I'm happy to make the change. So
I understand where Niels is coming from. Like I don't feel strongly either way. It's definitely that you can make the case that okay, we should have a separate, lateral join rel, which has all the things of a join except it's only the specific join type. So simultaneously, we've also talked about taking that join type enum and pulling it into the top level to have a single join type enum that we share.
Wait. Don't you have a refactoring PR?
I need to. This is before Claude, so maybe I'll get Claude to update my PR to do that. But yeah, I've had that on my backlog for forever. It just hasn't been important enough. But it's like we have that duplication already, and I think in the protobufs we sort of already allow for like illegal plans. Like we don't actually we do some amount of enforcement structurally. Like we try to prevent you from doing completely wrong things, but we do have situations where it's like, oh, in the hash join comparison function, like, oh, we say it has to return a Boolean, but we don't actually enforce it at the protobuf layer, right? That's like a separate concern that happens. Like there's already things like that, which is kind of where a validator gets floated upon a lot of the time. So we maybe need a separate thing to validate plans to enforce these rules. And you can make the case that we should try and make the protobus as correct by default, but I don't know if we need to bend over backwards if we're going to duplicate a lot of functionality.
Yeah. We can actually sneak in the new join type enum in this PR, and then convert the rest of the join PR to refer the new.
I wouldn't do it in this PR to keep those separate.
Okay.
If only because we're going to require a migration in the downstreams. I think the reason we haven't gone through it is because one of them has a slightly different order, I believe. I should double check this. It's been like 2 years.
Right. Yeah. It is in different order. I think one is grouped by the join type, like outer joins. So left, up. And then the other one is like based on the left and right. Group by outer, group by left or right. It's better to just have like one enum for everyone.
But I think structurally the idea of you tag a join as being special, saying it's lateral, and then you encode that there's going to be a reference somewhere in the right subtree,
correct,
left subtree. I did for a little bit was kind of annoyed at the idea of what I'm looking for. Elevating the left versus right dichotomy in Substrate, where it's like, well, Substrate doesn't care about left to right. Like you could theoretically either side could be the lateral join, but I think in practice, no system does that. They tend to pick one side, and I think most probably do like the SQL standard version.
Yeah,
I don't know, to be flexible for the sake of flexibility.
Well, yeah, and also like practically, if you want to refer something, I mean, we prefer refer something has been already defined, and given most of system just traverse the tree from like left to right, so it's pretty natural to give a precedence to the left. So, and
do you think that your distaste for the dichotomy between left and right in the context of lateral joins is another case for Neil's point of just introducing a new relation? Because then you could just avoid the word left and right altogether. But I don't know what a better name would be, but it could be like joined on and iterated on. I don't know. Those are terrible. We could figure something out.
But you have a lateral join where like one input is like the source and the other input is like the expansion or whatever. I don't know.
Exactly. That's already much better than what I said.
I think I'm wary of overcomplicating this for.
Yeah, but then like join type already bears.
Join type will still be left right, and then you end up with like, oh, do we reuse the join type for lateral join, or we have a separate join type for lateral join?
Yeah, calcite is also, I just checked because I was curious. They also do use left, right, and join type. So it's they also have different terminology. I mean, it's just something that I noticed when going through the PR that I felt that this is getting a bit complicated with these conditional rules. Yeah, it's not like a super strong feeling. So it's not a veto against doing it. So I just wanted to share this impression that it felt a bit complicated, getting complicated.
I haven't looked as closely at the PR yet as I would like, but my gut points me in the same direction as Neil's too. Like it feels distinct enough, I think, that it could be worth a separate relation. And if the word is the duplication, like you said, we can just do pointers basically to say refer to this other thing. So I will take a better look this week as well. But
yeah. Sounds good.
The thing about doing it laterally is it means if your system supports it, you explicitly have like the lateral, you have a consumer for the lateral join relation versus if you consume the join and you forget to look at the, I guess if you don't look at the lateral flag, you might just look at you might see that.
Yeah.
And dialect support.
Dialect
too.
Support. Yeah,
that's easier if it's separate.
Okay. Yeah, I'll revise the PR and then publish.
And I will fire up a Claude to look at the join type.
Okay.
I mean, it was very effective for getting rid of the args field. Someone was writing some code internally where they were handling the deprecated arg. It's like, this has literally been deprecated for 4 years. Like, can you check if it's used in any of the things that we care about, like libraries and data fusion? It's like, no. I'm like, yeah, we should just get rid of it. And it's very good at that.
I also tried it. Was also surprised.
Because you're getting rid of the enum, the expression as well. Yeah.
So then, is it Claude? I mean, is it GitHub Copilot or Claude that looking at like all the GitHub repo referencing these things, or?
So I use Claude. We also have our own IBM thing, but in this case I use Claude. And I just told it, there is this one field that has been deprecated. I want to remove it. Here are the 4 repos. I just posted the GitHub links for Substrate Go, RS, and Python and Java. And I said, can you check whether this is used anywhere and whether we can safely remove it? And then it cloned the repos in temporary directory, looked like everything by its own. And this worked pretty nice.
I have a similar thing where like I have context for the LLM agents I have, but just like, hey, like here's what you need to know about Substrate, which is like, here's the spec, here's a bunch of the repos we care about, here's the engines that use it. And I can ask it like, hey, like who's using this and stuff like that. I also use it for research to be like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how lateral joins work. Can you go look at, Trino, Data Fusion, Postgres and SQL Spec data and tell me what's going on, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Niels, also thank you for doing that. Like including those links in the PR makes it so easy to review. So yeah.
I wanted to be a good example. I remember you were asking for it a couple of times. And then
one thing I will say actually though, when you merge the PRs, if you can the message in the body becomes the release message, we could probably not include all of it in the release message. We can just kind of include the breaking, like the summary and the breaking change. I'm probably just say like it's not used anywhere.
Yeah, I started to do that on when I merge, also for like Dependabot. I just prune the body because we anyway have to squash merge with the reference to the PR. And yeah, I started to strip it down a little. Also because I noticed the like in one of the change logs, it included my git signed off message in the change log saying this change was signed off by Niels. Yeah. Probably something we should do, like clean up the body a bit.
But no, okay, going back to your PR, I think that the general concept of lateral join, it's like, we should have a special way to message that this is a lateral join, and maybe we can have a relation. We can go from there.
So that's good.
Just a question, because I remember looking at something related to this a while ago. But would introducing this lateral join help at all in representing something like unnest operations? Like expanding an array?
Yeah, I mean, you could put the so basically you could, if you have a unnest operator, unnest relational operator, then you can represent that as using lateral join. So lateral join, and then the right hand side is basically referencing the some strings or array column, and then it will just, so the right hand side will just yielding like all the rows, I mean in the all the elements in the array, and it will join with the original row. So yes,
I see.
Yeah,
but we would still need a special unnest operator to do that yielding of each element.
Yes, because it is relationals, and I think for the that is like gateway. I mean, you need a conversion from relational to scalar and scalar to relational. And, unnest is the gateway. Yeah.
Okay. A case that you could try and model unnested lateral, but I think it's probably worth. Actually, I think David's generate rel PR got closed automatically. I noticed a bunch of them just been sitting. I think it's worth having a built-in capability. Just because it's a special enough thing to be like, people are going to control that for unnest. And if it's like, okay, no, for unnest, what you want to do is structure a lateral join like this, and they're just going to look at us and be like, why?
That's
I would look at
fair.
that and be like, why? No, I think that seems like a broadly lateral joins make sense. They're a thing that people want and exist in the wild. So next thing is Nils, the unknown type.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of background because I mean, it's coming from IBM.
I think I think we've all looked at it. We talked about it last week a little bit, I believe. But you can go ahead, Niels.
So what we have some products that allow you to author data pipelines in a visual style. We acquired StreamSets, I think like 2 years ago or so, where you can visually create streaming pipelines. And we have had data stage for a very long time, which also allows you to do that. And StreamSets, the StreamSets user experience allows you to create pipelines where the data types of columns are not persisted because they're getting resolved or bound at execution time only. So this can be useful if for situations where you want to deal with schema drift in your pipelines. If you don't persist data type in your pipeline, then if the data type changes in reality, you can defer that to execution time.
Yep.
So this is like one context where like an unknown type could be helpful. You just say, for this unresolved plan, I don't want to persist the type, it's unknown, but at a later point in time, we're going to resolve it and bind it for execution. And similarly, the other aspect that was proposed in the original PR is that you have references to fields where you just know the name and no type, and you may not know where in the input record the field is located in terms of order.
Mhm.
And that would also be resolved at a later point in time before execution. So it's mostly about being able to persist these unresolved plans that came from the user, that then later in the system you can bind them and resolve them.
When you say that, oh, go ahead.
So that's the main background. Yeah.
When you say that it makes it more flexible in terms of like the schema drift underlying, but like what happens if your system, if you have like a thing changes type entirely and the operations that you're executing on it are no longer supported? Like, is it like that kind of change that you handle, or is it more like, oh, this was a UA and now it's a string or something?
Yeah, it could be something like the length of a varchar field that changes. Yeah. And then this is like a minor change, is still generally of a string type, but sometimes this can have some annoying side effects, and they just decide to defer the decision towards execution. You will run into errors at some point in time, but they say we're running into these errors during execution, not during authoring time when the end user designs the flows.
Yeah, I don't know, like I always prefer to get error as early as possible. but I see the case.
Yeah, another use case is that you can create reusable plan fragments where you essentially define an expression, for example, where which then you can plug into different kinds of plans that are being used against different data sets. And there you may also want to have some flexibility that you can bind the actual data types and data structures later, because you want to persist this fragment. Yeah. So
I mean, I'm not like opposing to any of these things, but basically, if we are introducing something like unknown, capable unknown, then I think it should be, everything could be unknown. So for
it propagates up the plan. At one point, you have to resolve it, and then that's when you get weird.
Yeah. So that was my main thing. Like, if it is if you're unknown, introducing an unknown type, like, okay, then expression can be unknown, and even the relation can be unknown. And unknown.
You got two head tilts simultaneously when you said the relations can be unknown. I don't think either of them are suggesting that.
I hope we're not going that far.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, so
what?
I think that early on, sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No, please.
So before, and I can't remember the name of it now, before Spark introduced the unknown like plan thing that they have, like, what is it, Spark, like the client protocol for like Spark jobs? Does anyone remember what it's called? Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Spark Connect.
Spark Connect, yeah, that's it. Spark Connect. So before the Spark Connect protocol was defined, I actually talked to some of the Spark guys about trying to get them to use Substrate for that. And I think there were two challenges. One is that they just wanted to make their own thing, but I think the second one was that was an easier technical hurdle, was the unbound expressions. Because you don't necessarily know what the types are ahead of time. And so I tried to sell them on the fact that like introducing simply an unknown type is largely sufficient for that situation. I think that it wasn't enough to get them to do it. But I actually continue to think that, although I would add one additional thought, which is that I think it would be important to also have what I would call an unknown function binding, if you will, where there's one additional argument to the function, which is a constant argument of the name of the function, something like that. And so it's a new expression type. It's not a function. It's an unknown function expression,
Right.
Which is the arguments plus the name of the function that ultimately will be bound. Because otherwise you get into this situation where you're like, well, how does this work with our existing functions if you've got this unknown type? Do you have to introduce a bunch of functions for unknown type? You know, like introduce add for unknown type and introduce concat for unknown type. And so I actually think just introducing unknown type as a formal type and introducing an unknown function, I think covers a large portion of the needs for this kind of case without being a really big change to the system. Because I think that that's the case, is that mostly what we're talking about here is that we don't know what the types of columns are.
In the original PR,
you don't even know if they exist. Sorry, go ahead, Victor.
No, in the original PR, you bring up a similar point, which is that you can have unknown column types, so that's fine. But then if you invoke a function with unknown, like if there are multiple possible implementation bindings for it, it's like, which one do you need at runtime? And then you get into like weirdness for like, oh, if it's unknown and there's multiple versions of it across different files, like which one are you referring to as well? If there's like the same name. So there's like I need to look at the PR, but the biggest question I was going to have was about like function resolution. It's like, I think we should probably get the types up the tree. And it's like effectively unknown becomes a placeholder for like, hey, at some point when you get this column type, you have to resolve this plan. And what are the rules for resolutions for things like functions? And yeah, whether you have a expression that binds a function name or like a special extension that you prefix things with to say, okay, here's a special extension like substrate.unknown.
I guess the way I think about functions is that it's nothing special. We just need one more expression, is what I'm arguing. And you can even argue that this is a function. Yeah, like I think one more expression type is appropriate for this because it's like, and so unknown function, and I think that could be used in the context of unknown type or not, right? Like you could always add an unknown function, which is, you know, like let's imagine a system where you've got a, you know, I'm going to use a dumb example, but like a naive producer, an intermediate producer consumer combination that doesn't know about a function, and then the end system knows about the function, right? Like you could imagine user defined functions that are registered in the bottom of the system, but nobody knows about them, right? And so I think having a or you could call it, maybe it's not unknown function, maybe it's like late bound function, right? And late bound function has the function name. And there are like, and late bound function can declare the output type. It just declares it, right? The output type's this. There's no type derivation or anything else. And in the case of these unbound plans, the late bound function output type would be unknown. Right. And so then you don't have to introduce anything new for other than this, like this one new late bound function, which to me is not, it goes beyond just what unknown type related stuff is. But then you don't have to, I don't feel like you need to jump through any hoops for the function types. I actually don't think I don't think that there's a situation where you guys tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that there's many places where you want to figure out whether the function is valid before you know the types. Right, like theoretically, if someone types a function named foo, right, you could actually determine early on that foo doesn't exist anywhere. It doesn't matter what type the inputs are, foo doesn't exist, right? I don't think that that's an important use case. I think the important use case is once I know the types, I can figure out what function it is. And if a user wants to type the name of it early, It just means it's going to be a late bound. I mean, I agree with Young Chul's earlier comment, which is I always like to know wrong things early. But I mean, late binding is late binding, and so I think it's okay. So I would say, like, we don't have to add anything to the functions themselves other than a new late bound function expression type. Yeah, I haven't looked at this PR here. I didn't actually see the link to in the agenda until just now, so I'm looking at it.
I just wanted to say that I understand the direction you are kind of talking about, Jacques, but in my gut, I'm feeling nervous about the fact that names are just names in Substrate. They don't actually matter other than kind of being the thing that points you to the definition. And we use that fact because there are cases in which we have functions where in SQL you would call both functions foo, but because of the limitations of Substrate for one reason or another, we might call one foo and the other foo underscore other or something. And that's just to preserve something like the uniqueness of the variance or something, or maybe they have different nullability handling and this kind of thing. And if we take the approach, I think being proposed here, where we put forward kind of a deferred function resolution strategy, which is name-based, then I think it introduces a new axis of potential confusion, because all of these function name decisions that previously didn't really matter other than just being names start to matter, if I understand correctly, which is that you actually need to make sure functions which you want to be able to have potentially resolved in a deferred manner to have the same name. Does that make sense?
I think you're, at least the way I'm thinking about it, I think you are, I think about this slightly differently, which is that the dynamic function, the input function name is the user's expressed function, or it's not like the function, the entirety of function binding is deferred. Right. What you're talking about is like some of the function defining binding would be early, like mapping from what the user said to what the substrate name is. And I'm saying, no, it's just entirely deferred. And so there's no definition, like in Substrate, there would be no definition for how you resolve the dynamic function.
Gotcha. It's up to the system. And you might say, like, okay, we allow users to use like plus, even though in Substrate it's at, and we remap it when we in our dynamic function mapper. It's like, no, we know that this is the thing. And you could also make the case that you could, even in nil system, it's like, oh, you're doing late binding of the column type. You know, oh, if my user calls plus, I know they mean the add function, so I can give that name. And but I like what you're saying, Jax, about the leaving it up to the user to kind of resolve. So I think that is kind of the issue with this. For like, we can't really predefine the strategies for how to resolve this stuff. It's very system specific. One thing so we're talking a lot about like the unknown type, and it sounds like overall we're discussing different approaches to it, but it seems like people want to do this. I think I did want to push back on Niels or ask about more specifically is what's the issue with names? Like, why do you need to reference names within expressions in a thing? My understanding is if you have a read rel where you say, hey, these are the names I think exist, they're unknown, I don't think you need names further into plan, because that seems like that should be the job of the engine at that point. To be like, here's the read, the underlying object might have a different shape. I have to realign it to match the expected shape of the plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a similar thought, because you could argue that the base schema in read rel is already a projection.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do, because we have a bunch of schema on read systems where like the underlying table is much wider than what exists.
Yeah, right. So I can see that, and yeah, I need to talk to the team about that. I mean they opened the PR mostly by themselves. I just gave them a little help to understand the process. I know there's another topic that we discussed with the teams, which we didn't raise in this PR yet, which may feed into this requirement. And there's another topic. So in the original PR, if you remember, the test cases were for extended expressions and not for plans. And one of the issues where they wanted to have an expression where you can select a field by name is that in extended expression you don't have a read rel and a base schema, since they use this extended expression type. The other reason is another feature that both datasets and streamsets have. They allow you to propagate any field that is not referenced in the plan to the output, which is another way to handle schema drift. You just pass everything through. And
can you say that again?
You pass. So if you can create a partially defined plan that only lists the column names that are actually required in expressions.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you execute the plan, every other field that is in the source table that has not been referenced is being passed through to the target. Dataset is called runtime column propagation. It's something that users can activate. And,
I called it dynamic star in the past. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good example of it.
It is possible that this can have an effect on the field order that you.
It would 100%. Like that's the first thought I think about when I hear that is like you're going to have to update all of the ordinal references further up the tree.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, might actually be
I think
what you have to do because I don't know about it.
The way that I've handled that in the past is that the fields that are not referenced are always added to the end of the existing fields.
Mm-hmm.
In the order that they occur. So that kind of avoids the
sort of
multi-reference thing.
When you go up the tree, for example, if you do a join, then if it's on the left side of the join, then you have to select the first one, select the other ones, and put them at the end. Like it does introduce complexity.
Well, that's a really important question right there, which is, this needs to be expressible. I would argue that this needs to be expressible. Like you need to, I'm wondering whether or not this is an immediate response. I have not thought about this, so maybe a completely idiotic idea. But in this example, I'm wondering whether or not it's appropriate. I think there are two different issues here. One is like, how do you reference the stuff at the bottom? But the other one is, how do you reference a set of columns that are unknown? And so like having like a column set, if you will, or field set, which you can reference. You can't reference the internals of it, right? It's an encapsulation.
Yeah.
But you reference it throughout the plan, right? And so you say like, in addition to returning fields 1 through 4, I'm returning field 5, which is the column set or the field set of all of the unknown fields. And then that field, that pseudo field, is used in the plan just like anything else. And it might be empty and it may have lots of things in it. But that's how it's referenced. And so from accounting perspective, from Substrate's point of view, it is one field. It happens to be that field is actually a composite of many fields.
Right.
And it's an unknown set that could be 0 fields.
Could be.
So then how do you reference fields in that field?
You can't, because you don't know what's in there.
Gotcha. So they just get propagated through invisibly.
Correct. Yeah. I was thinking like bundle everything in the struct. We don't know what's in there. Like it's just struct. Like I don't know.
Yeah. It's a struct. Yeah. No. To me, it's like a pseudo struct, if you will. Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, so I think these are all useful, and I see everything. And I just one thing about the function resolution. At this point, I don't want us to prescribe any kind of like resolution policy or whatever. Just leave it blank, and yeah. So you deal with it.
We made a hole for you. You have to resolve it.
Right. Yeah. You have to resolve it. We don't have to prescribe that thing. Yeah. For now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the late bindings and everything, those are good to me. Sounds really good to me. Yeah.
But to your point, Neil, I'd be curious to hear more about the use cases for naming and whether it's a hard blocker or not.
Yes, I have been. Yeah, they will post some updates to the PRs. I have talked to them and told them I had the same feeling there is context that I know because I'm also an IBM, but I said you need to explain a bit more context to the community, so you guys can understand.
Something I will say, I haven't skimmed the current unknown PRs. I'll probably want to remove any language about name-based stuff from it. Where, like, from my perspective, this PR is just for adding an unknown type.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to make any assumptions about whether or not we'll like put name kind of based resolution in as a feature somewhere else.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I asked this on the PR, and I do think it is important to settle, which is just, it seems like this unknown type could be useful in isolation, but I want to make sure that we add stuff that gets used by someone. And so I think it is important to clarify if this unknown change is sufficiently useful in isolation without the subsequent change that the language seems to make it sound like it's expected that will go through, but I think it's less obvious that will go through. So I don't. Maybe you'll get the chance to talk to your colleagues, but phrasing it a different way, if unknown goes in and the other one doesn't, will that unknown type be used still, or?
Yeah, the unknown type by itself is already useful. I'm sure about that. If there's wording in the documentation that kind of anticipates that the other change also goes through, then we can clean up the PR and just make it isolated.
Just to clarify, when you said the other change, you mean the late column propagation? Because to me,
I think it means like late binding, actually.
Late column binding.
The original PR had like three.
Propagation is the third topic. Yeah,
the other was like an expression that you could put a name in, and it would resolve it based on the name.
Right.
And some other stuff. You asked them to split it out into just like the individual components to make it easier to review.
There was a prior PR which had both the unknown type and the named column reference combined. And after most of us had a look, we suggested that we split off the unknown type and handle it separately. That's the background.
So my feedback is slightly different, which is that there's a question in my head of whether we should call it unknown type or whether we should call it like late bound type or something like that. And the second question I have is this really useful without late bound functions? That's where I feel like I don't think it is. I
agree. I think the proposal I want to see, like, okay, how does this work when you propagate the unbound or unknown or late bound type to a function? Like, how do we encode that?
Yeah. So I agree that late column references, right, whatever you want to call it, is a separate thing. Completely agree with that. But I'm inclined to say that this should include the type and the dynamic function binding thing.
Right.
That those, I think you need those two together to do stuff.
Well, technically, if you just have unknown type with the propagation rule, then you could use it as is to bind, like,
and you could add your own functions, which are unknown bound functions. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I agree, but I kind of feel like it like sends like they just feel very much like a set.
Agree.
Yeah. I think that the one thing that I'm scared about, I don't know how scared I am, but I'm a little bit scared, is this what everybody starts using?
Yeah.
Hey, look, I do Substrate, and now everybody's plans just has, late bound or unknown type everywhere and dynamic function, whatever, invocation or whatever you want to call it. And they're like, hey, look, we're sending all our plans through Substrate, right? I think this is more of a problem probably for the Datadog guys or like each of you guys' teams, right? It's not your direct team. It's like as you get further away from you guys, right? Like people are trying to find the fastest path to get something done. And so all of a sudden does this, like, are we giving people like a sharp knife for them to cut themselves and everybody else?
I have this nerve too, which is part of why I'm putting a little pressure from the comment I made before about like, I definitely don't want this to go in unless at least IBM says they need it, like, and they need it in isolation, because I am seeing the same possible fear coming in the future.
Like to your point, Jax, like, no, I agree with you. Like if I start seeing like functions unknown, I'm like, maybe we should make like unknown, unbound, late bound. Like, you can't actually declare functions that use it. It's purely a placeholder value that's used in other defined functions.
So on flip side, I see a value as so I plan to use Substrate like in anywhere in our compilation pipeline. So at any given time, we just take a tree and then just serialize it. From that perspective, this is actually quite useful because yeah, I mean, we just need to have this structure. It doesn't necessarily like fully resolve, but like anything. So yeah, so that's my take. So I think I see the use case for this one, but I don't know how people will use it. I have no idea.
But the other part of it is I don't think there's any product that's really mature in terms of how it consumes Substrate. Like unless you look at Data Fusion, it's like a very sloppy consumer in a lot of ways. Like it works, but it's not really checking any of the properties. And
right, yeah,
it does feel like unbound. I think I'm just calling it unbound now. It feels like a good name for it. Late bound, it's 2 words, but like it feels like a whole where it's like we want you to use it in this constrained way. And I think Jack's right. Like we have a very specific constrained use case for it, and you're worried it becomes the default where everyone's like, oh, I just want to make a plan with no resolve pipes, and at runtime I'll evaluate it and just do whatever I want for it.
I also wonder if a change like this is sort of moving in the direction of making Substrate almost like less about query plans and closer to something like the generic SQL AST, though it's not really an AST.
Effectively, yes.
And that
more about
could
user
lead
intention
to some,
than about query plans. Yeah.
Yeah, and it could lead to some scope creep I worry about. Like obviously every system is different. At least for us internally, we've constructed the system in such a way that within reason, because there's wrinkles as always, you do all the resolution at SQL parse time and you transform the now resolved AST into the Substrate plan. So everything is resolved. But if you give this backdoor for non-resolution, then it becomes viable to just say, oh, our SQL, we don't know anything really about any of these types, but we can produce Substrate here. And I don't know if this feature will happen, but it is possible it becomes even more the case that is an intended use by opening up this one feature. And maybe, I don't know, is that a desirable outcome?
I think we should be happy if people are using Substrate, even if for a use that we didn't anticipate.
And I think that's
I understand the concern.
Is this something we really need to worry about? I mean, so to use Substrate for query execution and truly as a query plan, you have to bind it. And yeah, so and if you just open the door like slightly more expressive so that people can capture, say, their script, and then do the rate binding, okay, like
there might almost distinguish as well between like the Substrate API that you're exposing and like the producer side, where it's like, oh, it could be SQL, or it could be like a Python data frame library where you don't have the types, where that system's already kind of doing a lot of like load and cast behind the scenes, and you can make the case that it's like, I want to be able to express this, and maybe in my producer it's like, no, I actually want to express the exact semantics of this like Python data frame library by putting in the exact size. Or maybe from your perspective, it's like, you know what, I only care that the engine knows more or less how to shape it, and I don't care that much about the semantics. I think we're coming from like the heavy, like we want to pre-specify everything because we're really looking at like moving workloads around, and it's really problematic when they vary. Versus some people are just like, I just want to run this and not have to like look at a SQL AST. Can I just talk to you via like, I want to add 2 numbers together. I don't really care if they're like the same numerical type.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to what I said. So I kind of started this fear mongering, and what I would say is that it's something that I think about as you guys have talked. I personally think that the benefits outweigh these potential risks. I do think that it's something for you each to watch in your teams, right? Is, what are the unintended consequences of introducing something like this? I don't, there was a suggestion made by, I think, Ben, I'm not positive who said it, but that was, do we say that you can't create functions? Maybe it's Victor.
Yeah, I was saying that.
We don't allow functions that have unknown types as argument types. I'm inclined not to make that rule, because then it makes the types inconsistent. I'd rather keep the primitives as consistent as possible. And so if unknown is a type, or unbound, or whatever it's called, is a type, and the rule is that you can create functions that refer to types, then you should be able to refer to that type. Which, we'll see whether it turns into a problem. But that's, I don't
system is
strongly.
My flip side there is I'd rather restrict it if someone actually needs to come talk to us, because then I'm like, you make a function of an unknown type. It's like, cool. How do you make a literal of an unknown type? Like, can you test an unknown type when you write down the behavior of a function of an unknown type? What is the behavior? It's like you can define the behavior of a function with like a specific overload, like that makes sense. But it's like this function takes unknown and I64. It's like, cool. What does that even mean?
It can add a number to anything.
What if the unknown's not a number? It's like, wait, what are the error cases? Like, you have to do a big written thing. And
yeah, actually, I mean, I think on that point, there is an argument to be made that it's hard to figure out the distinction between any and unknown in a function argument's type binding. Right? I'm like, well, unknown can be anything. So if it's an unknown, then like you can just use any. So that's an argument to why you shouldn't allow it in functions. Anyway, it's something to think about. I don't have a strong opinion about that particular thing. I do like elegance over special casing, or consistency over special casing. Elegance is probably the right word. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's gonna be like, I kind of agree with Niels. It's like, hey, if all of a sudden we open up a bunch of use cases, which we were kind of limiting ourselves from because we were overly rigid, now is maybe a good time to do that. I'm thinking maybe 3-4 years ago was not, but maybe now it is.
I'm just saying we open the door with crack, and if people really want functions of unknown types, then they can be like, okay,
I'm not going to fight for you or against you on that. I'm just like, I'm whatever. I'm a
like,
minus
what's the smallest amount of knife I can expose to people to get what they need?
Just to understand better, what makes you say that you would not have wanted to go forward with this 3 or 4 years ago?
I think that it would have likely turned into only that.
Yeah.
Because types are the hardest thing, I would argue. Functions and types are the hardest two things, I guess I'd say, for people to actually adopt this to systems, because it's just a lot of work.
There's a lot of systems
actually think about type derivation
function names and don't actually do the resolution, because that's like the hardest bit, to Josh's point.
Yeah. And so I think it would have probably watered Substrate down to where it really wasn't useful generally. Like, it may have been useful in a single situation where people are using it entirely internally. Like right now, right? Entirely internal use, right? Like the gluten use, right? It would have been cases like that, except probably more inside of corporations. But there would have been no passion for like making data fusion be really good at Substrate or things like that, where it's shared across multiple teams. So that's why I think it would have, because people don't like to do work, and if you get them an out, they're going to take the out. We already know that, right? And so I think that we're mature enough now, and there's enough bindings now that people can see the value, and I think that puts us in a better situation than where we were then.
It can be a dialect feature too, also, to just say like we don't allow unknown.
I think
that
it
could be
should
how
be.
it's controlled. Yeah.
It should be. Like unknown, like go talk to someone else. That's like extra.
Yeah. I think a vast majority of consumers are going to be like, no, I have no use for it for an unknown. Get that thing out of my face.
It's very much a thing that like reduces the portability of Substrate quite greatly when it's in your plan. But once you resolve it, and you can really send it anywhere, and that's kind of the trade-off. Where it's like, okay, if you really want this whole, you can use it. But then you can't interrupt with the rest of the ecosystem easily.
Yeah.
And that's like, and to your point, Jack. Yeah, I think if we made that whole early on, everyone would have been like, oh, I just want to serialize my plans. It's like the whole point of this. The thing we're trying to solve isn't like, can you serialize plans? It's can you serialize plans in a way that other systems can also read your plans and be like, yes, that's consistent.
Yeah.
Like that's how we win.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Niels, two things I would ask of you if you haven't done it already is one is it could be useful, or maybe you can have Claude do this rather than doing it yourself, evaluate, just like do the mental exercise of if I wanted to make this work for, say, Spark Connect, right? Are we thinking about this too myopically because we're only focused on types, and there are a bunch of other examples of things that we probably would need to deal with? I just do a little sort of like 20-minute sanity test against what you can see of Spark Connect, and where are we? Could we say like, hey, we can support a Spark Connect to Substrate connector once we add these things, or is it like, well, we're 700 miles still because there's 17 other things that probably we are going to need to do, and so that I kind of want to go into this with eyes open about whether or not like really this is not solving anything because we're going to need 17 other things, which is kind of like a little bit of Victor's question as well. The other one is that if you introduce the unknown type, I think you should delete the unknown type file. That's the user defined type.
Yeah,
I don't know if you actually did that in the PR.
Not yet. That not yet. Yeah. The guy who is proposing it is actually working for the Gluten team, so he should be a Spark expert as well. So. Yeah.
Perfect.
No, we have an unknown file type.
Can you get him to switch Gluten over to use Substrate?
I'm in contact with the manager of the team that worked at Intel before. They are now with IBM, and they approached me when they learned that I'm a PMC, and they are open of contributing back. They kept notes of all the modifications they did, and I said I will try to help them. We just need to get it prioritized, but they're totally open, and
awesome.
we just need to get it going.
Yeah. Is there a way that we can pitch them a benefit? Right. Like, I don't know if Gluten works with Data Fusion right now. And so can we pitch them that, hey, you could also run Gluten with Data Fusion, and that's a real benefit to being able to support this? Or, you can run it with DuckDB, and that's an interesting way to sort of have a story around, Gluten on small machines or something. I don't know what the path is, but I'm like, is there a way that we can, I think about product prioritization, right? Getting this prioritized on that team's roadmap. It's like, how can we say, hey, there are these benefits to this that are real tangible benefits to customers? I don't know what they are, but I'm just wondering if there are some.
Yeah, I mean, we do have some internal business cases and proposals of why we are doing these things. The director of the Gluten team, I need to check. I mean, they mainly have been integrating different systems with Velox, to my knowledge, like Spark, and I think Flink is also one they looked at. So they haven't been integrating with Data Fusion. I know other teams have been trying to accelerate Spark with Data Fusion, I think, and in the community. I will check. And I also told them, if it works for your time zone, join us on the community sync, see some of our faces, and just have a nice chat, and then maybe we can talk directly to them with this group.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
I do want to. There's like 2 more items. We're not going to get to them, Ben. We can table functions for next week. I think you brought it up because we talked about it.
I was going to say I only added that because I thought we had a bunch of time. It's not high priority, so.
And I just wanted to mention after that the Substrate Go mini freeze that we're doing. We've frozen the releases. Basically, we're planning on doing a bit of a revamp to Substrate Go, and rather than make 3 or 4 breaking release changes, we thought about like, let's stop the releases, make some of the breaking changes, and release one big bump with a bunch of newer, nicer features. If anyone needs anything urgently released in Substrate Go, like we're happy to cut a release manually, but we just turned off the auto releases for that reason, just because we don't want to release a new version every week for the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Cool.
Databricks conference, Jax.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that I'm going to be there. If anybody's around in San Francisco and wants to visit and is going to be near there. I'm doing a talk, but it's about agent orchestration, not Substrate. So
Nice.
Right coast.
Don't worry, it'll come back around. Just wait until there's going to be a new Rust optimizer that's going to be built using all of this stuff, but we'll get there.
Is that Opti?
Anybody here going to be there?
No.
No, sadness. All right.
I'd like to see the
I
talk,
saw a bunch of
though.
stuff about Datadog. I assume Datadog's trying to sell a shitload of stuff there. So
I'm
There might be
sure.
other people going there, but not Ben or I.
We're so not product facing.
yeah. Well, I met some of your team members, several of your team members at the conference a few weeks ago.
Who'd you meet? Actually, you know what? Let me go after.
I knew Julian already, but there was another guy following around with Julian, who's like the manager of one of the teams that's working with Substrate stuff. No, I don't know. I don't remember anybody's name. I'm horrible with names, so
Too bad.
We are trying to kill the recording real quick.